Is Nigel Farage finally finished? I think he might be. In the last few weeks, we've seen all of his chickens come home to roost, and I'll be honest, it's hard to try and pretend not to be enjoying it. So we have this backlog of scandals that is finally catching up with him. So let's cast our mind back. So first of all, do you remember there was the housing scandal where he initially said he bought a house in Clacton, but then it turned out he hadn't paid stamp duty on it, and he then backtracked and said, oh no, I lied about buying a house. My partner, who we don't know where she would have got the money from, bought the house, and that's why we didn't pay stamp duty. So he seemed to veer that scandal without, to be honest, anyone really believing him, but he managed to avoid it. But now it turns out that of his 5 houses that he owns, he's only actually declared 2. So this is on top of the fact that he's already breached 17 times the parliamentary standards by failing to declare income. He has now failed to declare 3 of his 5 properties that he owns, and he also failed to declare the £5 million gift from Chris Harborne, who is the Thai-based crypto billionaire who is now registered to vote in the UK to flood Reform UK with yet even more money. But the scandals themselves seem to have been bouncing off Farage for a while, but he seems to be completely unravelling at the slightest bit of scrutiny, because the media, for whatever reason, have woken up and started to ask him questions about this. And he's responded with these explosive, churlish kind of rage and anger, really, at being questioned, which just highlights how much of an establishment plant he is and how entitled he is, and how he feels he should get away without scrutiny because it's his money, it's his private business and nothing to do with anyone. Well, for a man who's vying to be our next Prime Minister, that doesn't really hold up, and it doesn't hold up in line with parliamentary standards either. Now, what's happened this week is that friends of Nigel Farage have supposedly reported to the media that he's worried about a by-election being triggered because of his £5 million donation. Now, this is an interesting one, because if he is found to have broken parliamentary code, which I think we all think he has, then there's a few things that could happen. I mean, he could be asked to apologise, but I don't think I've ever heard the word sorry come out of Nigel Farage's mouth. I don't think it's something he's capable of. But also, the more he unravels, the more his backers like Chris Harborne are going to not want him to be the front man of Reform UK. And I think they're going to pull their support, because it's easy to think that Farage owns Reform UK, but actually it's the people who own Farage that own Reform UK. So I can imagine at this moment in time you're going to have people like Zia Youssef, people like Suella Braverman, Jemrick, Richard Tice, all vying for the leadership and vying to take over from Farage, and they are going to turn on each other quicker than snakes in a bucket, or crabs in a bucket, to use a better analogy, putting each other down as the other one tries to get up. So I think we're about to hit a very turbulent time for Reform UK, at a time when Labour are seeing a slight resurgence in the polls after it's rumoured that Andy Burnham's going to be our next Prime Minister, and by rumoured, I mean all but certain. So for Nigel Farage then, what's next? Well, I've got my money on, by the end of the year, him saying that he's going to move to America to become a MAGA influencer or a MAGA reporter for one of the far-right pundits over there. He is making as much money out of the system as he can at the moment. It's about £2 million in secondary income, so not his parliamentary job that he's earning at the minute. It was recently revealed he was earning £22,000 an hour flogging gold bullion as a gold bullion brand ambassador. And that was his most recent one. It's the most an MP has ever made kind of in one go from one extra company for 10 hours work. He got like 200 grand. He's just laughing at his constituents. Like, it's clearly that he's not serving Clacton, because he's never in Clacton or Parliament. This is a man who never turns up to Parliament for debates, never turns up to his constituency, is off making money through GB News, Gold Bullion and all these other things, who's doing paid cameos for paedophiles and saying things like up the rah for 80 quid. This is a man clearly for sale and clearly bought. But the fact is, he's starting to unravel. Now, this is where Reform UK is really going to be tested, because Farage built Reform, and I think it's going to be Farage that brings it down. So what's going to happen over the next year or so, there's a lot of possibilities, but the thing that I think, for the first time, genuinely believe is that Farage is finished. His response on his recent media round was just so telling, that he was worried, he was angry, and he was out of his depth. Now, we've all seen that. That means if donors have seen that. So I think things are about to get really interesting time for Reform UK. We know Reform Britain are gunning for them, and the far right are already turning on each other. I think we're going to see Reform UK, the inner circle, now start to turn on each other as they vie for life after Farage, and what that's going to look like. So interesting times. I'll be grabbing my popcorn as they all turn on each other and fall apart. But it's also really important that we don't get distracted on the left, that we continue to organise and build. That's not Burnham. We know it's not Burnham. This is about the Greens. We've got Manchester mayority in our crosshairs, but we've also got the general election in 2029. So let the far right eat each other, let Labour waste their own time, and let's build a real resistance. Let's build a real opposition through the Green Party. Peace.